Good evening and congratulations to the graduating class of 2018. One more round of applause, please. Woo! I can tell you without a doubt that you are receiving one of the best degrees ever because there are several companies like LinkedIn that are competing for you every day. On that note, please make sure to see me after the ceremony. I want to hire you. It is such an honor to be here today and truly a full circle moment for me as an alumna. So thank you, Dean Cheryl Ehrman, esteemed faculty, friends, and family. I know how hard you all worked to get here today. I was sitting in your seat 18 years ago after a long journey of 7 years. Yes, 7 years to graduate. When I look back of how it all started, I think about my parents. They taught me most about grit. My parents worked hard for everything they had, and they learned this at a very early age. Both my parents were brought up by a single mother who had no education, no job, and didn't even know how to drive a car. My mother had 11 brothers and sisters, and there were few options to make ends meet. My mom and her 10 siblings were on welfare their entire childhood. My father, who worked at a meat company at the age of 16 and took over the business at 20 years old. He loved math and electronics, which he studied on the side. He always had a dream to be an engineer, but he chose to make ends meet. So when my mom and dad met and had 3 girls of their own, it was about teaching us to be independent and not repeating the past. My dad told me to be good at math and graduate from college. After high school, I spent a couple of years in junior college before I was accepted to San Jose State, and at the same time was working 20 to 30 hours a week. My dad helped pay for college and would walk on campus to pay in person because he was so proud. And in 2000, I became the first person in my family to graduate from college. Thank you. And if you were just like me, you have so many people to thank who got you here today. So let's give another round of applause to your family and friends. One of the most important things I learned early on is relationships matter. I remember my first years in San Jose State when the classes got really, really hard. I was starting to fail some of my classes and felt alone because there were few women, and I felt like everyone was further along than me. I was about to give up. But a classmate named Erin asked if I needed help. Of course I said yes, which then was the beginning of many long nights until 2 in the morning in a study group with all my classmates. The classmates I met in that tiny room would be the people who got me through college, and without them, I don't think I would have graduated. To this day, we are still very close and help each other all the time. Krista is one of my best friends, and Aaron recently asked me for advice for an issue at his company. These relationships have lasted me almost 2 decades. The relationships you built here can truly last you a lifetime. I remember my first thoughts after graduation. I did it, now what? I need a full-time job and I need to be an amazing engineer. I had a false sense of security that all I needed was a degree to be ready for the job, but I was wrong. I remember interviewing at my first tech job, and I failed the interview. I remember walking away doubting myself and thinking I was a horrible engineer and questioning if this was for me. So I researched and talked to friends on how I could do better at the next interview. It was the .com days, and if you could put up a website, you were a genius. So I figured at the next interview, I would do just that. I built a site, and to be honest, it was the crappiest thing you had ever seen. I went into the interview and showed them, and guess what? They thought I was a genius. That was my ticket into my first tech job. From there, it was a lot about learning and putting everything I learned into practice. But what I also learned was there was so much I didn't know. I felt like everyone at work seemed way more advanced than me, and those doubts crept in. I would stay up really late night coding, trying to get better, and I practiced more and more, and I did get better. What I realized is that I have to always be learning. Trust me, as great as San Jose State is in preparing you, you will not know everything you need to know. As I became a better engineer, I wanted to learn more. Learning more meant having more autonomy on a project. I wanted to do a project that I was in charge of. My boss gave me a project to measure the performance of an online calendar service. Hey, this was big technology back then to have this online. He needed it done in 2 weeks, and I was going to build it. I worked hard day and night coding the solution. Soon the date was coming, and I also needed to clean up my disk space. Back then, we were challenged from limited disk space, so I often cleared up storage as much as I could. So there I was, working in my working directory, and did RM minus RF. Yeah, those that you know, that is a total disaster. My code was gone, and like a rookie, I didn't check in my code often enough. My stomach sank. I asked my colleagues if they had ideas, and they all looked at me sadly and said, "I'm sorry, it's gone." I felt like a total failure, and I had to tell my boss, Mike, what I did. I remember walking over to him and telling him, "Mike, that project you need done by tomorrow, I accidentally deleted the code." He looked at me with disappointment, and I burst into tears. Then I quickly told him, "I will get it done in 2 days." I had no idea if I could, but I told him I would. He said, "Okay," and I worked away. Staying awake, working hard, it's amazing when you build something once, you can build it again, and even better with fewer bugs. I did it. My boss was amazed, and so were my colleagues. Fast forward 6 months, he started at a new company and asked me to join. Of course, I said yes. I joined Good Technology and ended up being there for 9 years. I learned a ton and said yes to every new opportunity. I also met my husband there and had 2 kids there, not literally, had 2 kids there. But I couldn't imagine how one single failure could lead to so many successful outcomes. These relationships would later introduce me to LinkedIn, where I have spent the last 8 years of my career. I am now heading all of engineering for a product called LinkedIn, and yes, teaching others how to learn is now my job. The last lesson I want to share with you is the most important to me, and that is pay it forward. When I look at all of you and think about how much you've learned and the potential of where you will be, I know you will get even smarter and you will be even more successful. But what I hope is that you feel the need to help others and pay it forward. I feel it is your moral obligation to help others like those that have helped you. That's why I also commit 20% of my time, in addition to my job at LinkedIn, to get more women to join and stay in tech. The fact is, we are facing a severe shortage of tech workers, and compounding that, we have a massive problem in diversity. In the US alone, it's estimated 1.4 million engineering positions will be needed to be filled by 2020, and it's predicted that universities will only graduate 400,000. That will be less than a third of what we will need. We have no other choice than to get more people interested in engineering, and getting more women can help solve that. The number of women that are currently working in tech today is 20%. Your graduating class, yes, I requested the stats, are 18% women in bachelor's and 34% master's. The numbers are not great. We need diversity in tech that represents the diversity of our society. I was at the Grace Hopper Conference for Women in Computing, named after Grace, who invented the compiler. Artificial intelligence was the talk of the conference, and Melinda Gates was the keynote. And she said something that really hit home for me. She said, if we don't get women and people of color at the table, real technologists doing the real work, we will bias systems. Trying to reverse that a decade or two from now will be so much more difficult, if not close to impossible. So it's not just about doing what feels good, it's about creating our future. If we stay the current course and do not have more women, more people of color, more diversity in general in technology, we will not be able to keep up with the demand to innovate. And what's even more scary, we may build the wrong products. You are the ones who will build teams, create companies, and inspire the next generation of engineers. You have the opportunity to create something that is vibrant and represents the diversity of our society. You can do it better than we did. The men in the audience, along with the women, have the power to help us create this change. We need to help others think differently by acting differently. This is about creating our future, and we need all of us to pay it forward to change the world. So, to the graduating class of 2013, I encourage you to build the best relationships. They will be the key to your success and the opportunities you will be given. Always be learning. I'm still learning every day. And most importantly, pay it forward. We are counting on you to build the best products, the best teams, and companies to change the world. I can't wait to see what you will do next and how proud we will be of you. Thank you.